Best video settings for the Panasonic FZ300. Do you use the Panasonic FZ300? Not only is this compact super zoom a great camera, it's got some decent video capabilities as well. And here, I'm going to give you the best settings for the Panasonic FZ300. First, you have to go into the video menu. Now for most people, it makes the most sense to select the MP4 format, which will give you more quality than the AVC HD model. But even more importantly is the rec quality. There are quite a few formats here, but 4K is the best, even if your final output format is 1080p, which is called FHD in the camera. That's because even 4K downscaled to FHD will still have better quality than 1080p. That's not true of all cameras, but it is true of this one. There is also an HD mode and even a VGA mode, but I would not recommend those at all. Too low quality. Okay, what about photo style? That's a bit confusing because it actually applies to video here. The best idea is to select the flattest profile so you can add contrast later in post if you want. I'd recommend Cine D. You can also turn the contrast down to -5, although 0 isn't bad. I generally leave the sharpness at 0 because it looks fairly natural and -5 is a bit too dull looking. You might also consider the natural profile, but I find that the skin tones look a little better in Cine D. There are also a few filters you can turn on, such as one-point color and slow days. They can be fun, but make sure you are serious about them because they are baked into the video file and you can't remove them once you add them. Many of them can also be done in post, so most of the time it's good to avoid them except if you want a very specific look. There are a few other important settings. For example, it's best to shoot in manual mode so you can control your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Shutter speed is especially important for video, and it is typically set at 1/2 the frame rate. So for 30 frames per second, set the shutter speed at 1/60. There's a continuous AF setting. I'd recommend keeping that off for most videos because it sometimes refocuses and can be very distracting. It is useful if you want the camera to refocus when you're moving throughout the frame. There is one other option you might be interested in. It's E-stabilization for video. It's accessed in a weird way though. First, you can't use it in 4K mode. You have to switch to FHD or 1080p mode. Then go to the photo menu and select Stabilizer, and then turn on E-stabilization. To be honest, although this can help keep the camera looking a bit more steady in some situations, it can create some strange, jerky movements in others, and I mostly keep it off, but I suggest experimenting for your own purposes. That's it. Those are my recommendations for video settings for the Panasonic FZ300. I hope they help you shoot video, but if they do not, try becoming a professional race car driver.